Hey guys, so today I'm going to be showing you how I make my chewy chocolate chip cookie. I know it took a really long time, but I just kept trying out so many different versions of this cookie until I found the right one. I have 2 eggs and we're going to take them out of the fridge and bring them to room temperature. Next, we're going to take 2 sticks of butter and we're going to go ahead and melt the butter. You can do this in the microwave or on the stove. Just make sure that the butter doesn't brown. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and measure all of our dry ingredients. I have 2 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, to which I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1.25 teaspoons of salt. Then I'm going to go ahead and mix all of our dry ingredients together really well. I kept mixing it off camera some more. You just want to mix all your ingredients well so you don't end up with like a salty cookie. I posted a link in the description box below that goes over how to measure flour. And the reason I say this is because I think it's a common mistake anyone can make. I've made it before. And sometimes we don't realize we pack flour when we're scooping it out of the bag or the container where we store our flour. And I think this is kind of where your cookie can go wrong and end up dry. So I highly recommend watching this video. It's like the biggest tip I can give. Okay, so next we have our melted butter. I gave it some time to cool. If not, you're going to end up with a really runny dough. I added 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. And then I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. They sell light brown sugar as well, but make sure you get the dark brown sugar. It just gives the cookie a much chewier texture. If you're wondering why 2 tablespoons, I know it sounds like such a weird measurement. It is, but I normally make this recipe with only 3/4 of a cup of dark brown sugar, and I pack it round so it looks like the measuring cup has a little muffin top. However, I figured my version of round might be different for someone else, so I just scrape the top, and it's about 2 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. So as you can see, our batter is kind of like a very dark molasses color initially, but as the sugar and the butter really mix in well, it starts turning into like a dark caramel color. So I'm just gonna go ahead and scrape the sides of the bowl, and those 2 eggs that we had taken out of the fridge, which should hopefully be at room temperature by now. We're only going to use 1 egg and 1 yolk, so you're not using the full 2 eggs for this recipe. And I'm just going to go ahead and add the eggs. The reason we don't use the full 2 eggs is because using 1 yolk and 1 egg gives you more of that fudge-like texture to your cookie. Afterwards, I went ahead and I added 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And you're just going to go ahead and mix this until it's fully incorporated. I had the setting of the KitchenAid on stir. That's how I did this entire recipe. It was all on stir. So I've done this recipe by hand on the KitchenAid mixer. So it's up to you whatever you want to use. If you're doing it by hand, you would just use a bowl and a whisk, and the cookies turn out exactly the same. So I think the biggest thing is measuring all of your ingredients correctly, especially the flour. I can't stress enough the flour. Okay, so once this is all fully incorporated, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the whisk attachment. I'm going to go ahead and scrape the sides of the bowl and then just give it a quick mix with a spatula. And I'm going to switch to a paddle attachment. If you're doing this by hand, just switch your whisk to a spatula, and you're going to incorporate the flour, all of our dry ingredients that we had mixed previously, with the spatula, and just incorporate it throughout the batter. And you're going to end up with a fairly firm but soft dough. It's not going to be a sticky dough, but it's not going to be like a hard, really firm dough. It's still really soft. Yeah, you can see the texture of the batter. It's really soft dough, but it's not sticky at all. So once it's all mixed in really well, I'm going to go ahead and add 1.5 cups of walnuts. Or you can use pecans, or you can just skip this step completely. I just like the crunch that it gives the cookie. And then we're going to go ahead and add our 12 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. I use baking bars, so each of these baking bars is about 4 ounces. So I use 3 baking bars, and then I just chop them up. And the reason I use baking bars is because the chocolate spreads throughout the cookie really nice, like throughout, and it gives it a really rustic look, which I really like. But you can use a standard 12-ounce bag of chocolate chips. So then I'm just going to go ahead and mix the dough until it's all mixed in really well. I know they sell cookie scoops. I just don't use cookie scoops because I think that it's a really small portion, which is why I use an ice cream scoop. I know it's a large measurement, but I like a giant cookie. So I get about 14 to 15 of these cookie dough balls, depending how much I overfill them. But you just want to use something, even if you don't have an ice cream scoop or a cookie scoop, use like a small measuring cup or just anything you can find that's going to give you the same size cookie, because when you use a spoon and you just eyeball it, you're going to end up with small cookie dough balls and large cookie dough balls, and one of them is going to be burning while the other one's still raw while you're baking the cookies. So once I'm done scooping all of this, I cover the tray in saran wrap and I pop it in the freezer for 25 to 30 minutes. Basically until the dough is fully frozen. You can go ahead then and bake it at 325, or you can do what I do and I store them cookie dough balls in a Ziploc bag and I make them whenever I feel like having a cookie. This is my dog Cody. He's staring at me. Well, he's staring at the cookie. This is a cookie that I made from batter that I had from the day before that's just made out of chocolate chips. Chocolate chunks. This is a cookie I baked at 350 and I just wanted to show you guys a difference. It's like a much thicker cookie. It's less chewy just because you have to bake it for a bit longer. If not, it's still going to be raw on the inside. So that's why I like baking my cookies at 325. You get a really thin, crispy cookie that's still really chewy. Okay, if anyone tries this recipe out, let me know. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Bye!